Hey my friends, welcome back to a new video. Today we'll be talking about shifting to a new earth. So many people are shifting to a new earth, and there's so much we need to talk about, especially right now. So we are noticing that we're not so affected by what is happening in front of our eyes than we are by a lack of knowledge and wisdom to rise beyond what is happening in front of our eyes. Yesterday I wrote it's like a quote that just came to me, and I wrote it down and I want to read it to you as an introduction in today's video. So I wrote down, it's not the problem that limits us, but the lack of knowledge. It's not the knowledge that sets us free, but the experience when we use the knowledge. And it's not the experience that empowers us, but the wisdom we have received from the problem. And if that already resonates with you, hit the like button, because it helps to bring this message to more people. So what it has to do with shifting to a new earth? Well, when we observe our lives and we look around us, we recognize there is a problem. There is a problem. Our lack of connection to life, our lack of connection to one another, the lack of compassion, the lack of generosity, the lack of righteousness, the lack of honesty, right? We see it as a problem. But it's not the problem that limits us, right? It's the lack of knowledge how to be better. That's why we need a certain philosophical understanding of how to rise beyond it. And people who are gaining this philosophical understanding are rising beyond the masses. And those are becoming great examples. We have many great teachers at this time. We have many great examples. And I'm sure many of you may find a friend or a co-worker or a mentor, a teacher, or maybe a neighbor who is an example of that, and you can learn so much from there. Or you can go on YouTube and you can find at least one person who's being an example of someone who's rising beyond the masses and embodying righteousness, embodying clarity, embodying balance, harmony, love for all, generosity, right? And those are the people who are shifting to a new earth. And it doesn't mean that you have to be perfect in that you start to shift and to live a new life. It means that you start noticing a problem and leveling up your understanding around it, how to be better. So it's not the problem that limits us, it's the lack of knowledge, right? And it's not the knowledge that sets us free, but the experience when we use the knowledge. So when we find something that truly reminds us of potential new steps we could take in our lives, then we have to practice it, right? So I want to talk so much about this, how to shift, because so many people are wondering and some people are being scared, like, will I be left behind? Well, it depends of how you choose to live your life. It's based on your free will, right? So Aristotle had many great understandings around what it means to be a good human. So if we go a little bit further with this message, I'm sure that you can see that those who know how to be better will do better, and through consistency will become better. And to be better human being means to constantly look for ways and options that allow you to evolve your natural abilities and capabilities. That's what Aristotle was talking about when he was describing a definition of a good human, the one that flourishes in his or her life. And flourishing is a kind of activity of soul expressing complete goodness. That's what flourishing is. So when we're thinking about the new earth, we're thinking about people who are flourishing. We're thinking about people who are expressing complete goodness. So what is complete goodness? It means that we've healed ourselves to such a degree that when we communicate with others, we express goodness onto them, right? That's how we become of service to others. It doesn't mean that we are like that all the time. We are still sometimes like batteries. We have to recharge ourselves. Sometimes we just don't have capacity to be kind. So if we are able to read ourselves, we can back up and recharge, right? We have these abilities. So Aristotle said, you need to exercise complete goodness over complete life. And that is a really wonderful saying, because complete life is something unknown. We don't know what it means to be complete in life. Some would say having a lot of money, having a great health, and good relationships. But we don't truly know, because we know people who have all of that and they don't feel complete. They feel they don't have enough, right? And then there are people who are spiritually really awakened and maybe materially lacking certain things. And you would say, well, those people are not complete either. And then you have people who have both of that, and you still don't know if they're complete, because you don't know if they're truly authentic or they're, just pretending to be. So we don't know what being complete truly is. But what we know is that when you exercise complete goodness, when you're good towards yourself, when you're good towards people around you, when you're good, when you're expressing yourself, generous, honest, truthful, righteous, when you're practicing that, the energy of your body is different. Your aura is different. And what happens, more you practice that, more you start to see results for your work. And I can tell you that because after I've started following this journey, what I'm doing now, and I'm living that every single day, this is my mission. I've started seeing that wherever I go, people are treating me really nicely. Like whatever I need to do, if I go into a grocery store, if I go into the bank, if I go, wherever, I'm just meeting really generously nice people. And it's not something common, like something most people are experiencing, because sometimes, when we're talking with others, they say, oh, people are so mean and so sad and so angry and so on. Well, truly what started happening in my life, I really don't meet many those limiting negative people. I just don't meet them anymore. I'm meeting many more generous, kind people. And that is a demonstration of what happens when you shift to that new state of being. And that is the new earth, isn't it? Isn't the new earth a place where everything works in righteousness, where everything works in kindness, where everything is aware of interconnectedness? And interconnectedness means whatever I do affects all, and whatever happens around me affects me. And when we become aware of that, we recognize, well, I can be affected by what is happening, or I can rise beyond it and affect on what is happening. And therefore, maybe I can create some butterflies, maybe some butterflies or butterfly effect on my surrounding, right? So when we lack a certain level of self-control, our impulses pull us in opposite direction, and that's what happens to most of us. That's why we feel like, I've been good, but bad things are happening to me. How often you think like that? Like, I was such a good person, and then I was scammed, or that person ignored me, or something bad happened. The problem is when goodness is not coming from a generous sense of being, but rather from a need to please someone because we've been hurt in the past. That's why in order to shift to a new earth, you have to go through the process of healing. And process of healing is a process of deep work, deep introspection that needs to become a responsibility. And people can only communicate to the level of their self-awareness. So we recognize, well, when somebody is mean towards you, it's because they haven't developed their awareness around reasons why they are so hurt, why they're in such a deep pain. So they're projecting it onto others. So when you stop focusing so much on how people are treating you, and you focus more on reasons why you're treating others in a similar way, you will recognize that there are certain behaviors you don't want to demonstrate anymore. There are certain patterns you don't want to repeat anymore. And that's how you shift to a new earth. So we're getting deep today, and I love that. And I've seen many comments, in recent videos. We've been going a little bit deeper, and most of you really like that, so it's great. Well, when we lack a level of self-control, our impulses pull us in opposite direction, and that's where we start doing things that are usually unhealthy for us. So what is self-control? Is this something artificial, or is this something that is more soul-guided? In philosophy, there are two different types of virtues, and virtues are good habits. So there are virtues of intellect and virtues of character. And why it is important to understand? Well, once we develop these two types of good virtues, good habits, we become more balanced, and we gain this good level of self-control, self-awareness, that leads us to self-actualization. We need that. So what are virtues of thought and intellect? That are the virtues of the intellect. Those are philosophical knowledge and insight and wisdom. So philosophical knowledge gives us a certain understanding of how life is functioning, how we are functioning, and how the universe or God or the creator is functioning, how everything works. So we have to find a timeless wisdom, right? A timeless philosophy. A philosophy that is universal. And that's why so many people, maybe you've noticed this in your life as well, have been deeply attracted towards ancient philosophies. Maybe ancient Greek philosophers, like we're talking today a lot about Aristotle. Maybe you feel deeply drawn to certain esoteric wisdom that has these timeless insights. We need to have a certain philosophical understanding so we can know why we are doing something, right? And if we dive deep into philosophy, we also learn how to practice it. And once we learn how to practice it, we also find reasons why to practice it, why to do it. And once we start practicing it, we start gaining many great insights as feedbacks from our lives. And insights that we receive as feedbacks from our lives are what makes us wiser, isn't that so? So what we saw before as a problem, we see people are angry, people are mean, there's so much of negativity, so much of darkness, and we can see it as a problem. Well, philosophy can help us to see through this, to see the common patterns that are supporting that and feeding this type of a lifestyle, right? But then knowledge as it comes to us through philosophy is not what sets us free. It's the experience once we embody that knowledge, right? And even experience is not what empowers us, but the wisdom we have received from the problem. So we stop repeating the problem, right? We can't solve a problem with the same level of thinking as it created it, like Albert Einstein said. So we recognize we have to rise beyond the problem with a new set of knowledge that will give us many or plenty of options how to behave differently. And that's how we evolve our virtues of thought and intellect. We learn to think deeply and clearly, and that is a great mastery. Then the second virtue is virtue of character. Once we've developed a certain philosophy that truly works for us, that is universal, we learn to be generous and moderate. This is a must when it comes to the, let's say, the control over our energy system. We have to become virtuous, right? We have to become generous. And to be generous means what you want to do comes from a deeper meaning. Not just because you want to get something in return. That's not generosity. Generosity comes from doing something because you want to see more of that in the world, right? When you're kind towards someone because you want to see more kindness in the world, not because you want to get something from that person, that's generosity. And moderation is knowing the middle way. Every time you go into extremes, at some point you will find the hurts of it. At some point you will pay the price for it. And it's okay. We need to explore different extremes if we want to find the middle way, the moderation. And we recognize that the new earth is not in one extreme or another. It's in the middle, right? We can go deeply and extremely into certain conspiracies and it will not bring us into the new earth. And we can go deeply and extremely into certain spiritual ideas and it will not free us as well. So we have to find the middle point between one and another. The middle point between spiritual and materialistic. The middle point between physical and energetic. The middle point between myself and you. And once we find that middle point, we find that generous connection. The sweet spot, right? And once we find it, we learn to embody it. And that is another level of self-evolution that is creating a new earth. So I think it is more complex and it is much deeper than usually we hear. But I think there is no way without it. Sometimes people say, well, this shouldn't be complicated. And I think it's not complicated, but our psychology is already quite complicated. So to simplify everything, sometimes we may pull out important dots that then later can't help us to connect everything to find a full picture. So I think, again, between complexity and simplicity, there's a middle way. And middle way is this wonderful understanding of how uniquely we are functioning. So when your body is in balance, your soul becomes heard. Isn't that so? It means that once you embody these virtues, these habits of thought, of intellect, of philosophy, something that truly makes sense to you, and you start gaining wisdom from your own experiences, you start thinking freely with your own mind rather than just following ideas of others. And as you start taking more care for your body, as you know, your body is a vehicle that allows you to practice that, to experience that, and to raise the energy on this planet. You recognize that your body needs to be balanced, right? And what I found out in my life is that if I start my day right, if I firstly take time for some great self-care, like meditation and workout, and to me, I'm doing ice cold water therapy, as I mentioned in previous videos. I do it all in the morning, and what happens, I just feel more balanced when I start my day. And when I feel more balanced, I'm more in tune with myself. And as I'm more in tune with myself, it's much easier for me to have this level of self-control. So my impulses from my past, my hurts from my past are not pulling me so much away from where I want to go. And it makes me much easier to understand myself, to understand my wounds, and to understand what really works for me and what I want to do and achieve and create in my life. So when your body is balanced, your soul becomes heard. This allows you to be generous and moderate. Isn't that so? And we always become whole once we become aware of our senses. We notice that we are sitting in the driving seat of them. We recognize that whatever we sense, we shouldn't be a victim of it. We're in the driving seat of these senses, which means that all these impulses are coming to us, so we will do something with them. You know, when we say, oh, I'm empathic and everything is affecting me, what you're saying is that you don't know how to use your senses, and it's okay. I want to remind you to learn to use your senses, to learn to take from these impulses and recognize what they're telling to you. There is a problem, yes. There is something to be resolved, yes. Can you do something about it? Don't go to extreme like, oh, the whole world is going crazy. I can't do anything about it. It starts with one person and it starts with you. Don't go crazy, right? Don't be another one in that field of craziness. It starts with you. So when you start using your senses from a standpoint of an observer, you will recognize, well, if I'm hurting, it means that the world is hurting. So how could I bring more of the solution to it? I've learned for myself, well, I'm really good at painting. I'm really good at expressing my vision, my ideas. This is a source of healing, isn't it? So I've learned from my senses. I'm sensing a lot of pain on the world. So let's bring healing to that pain, right? Let's research the field that would be able to heal the pain on the world so I can bring it through a creative message. That's how I've learned from my senses. I'm in a driving seat of my body, and therefore what I sense I can use to transmute into something healing. So once we learn to use our senses and express them in constructive and creative forms that are inspired by flourishing nature and generous life of the cosmos and love by the Creator, we start making these healing waves on the world, and that's what is creating a new earth. Isn't that so? So we become whole once we become aware of our senses. We notice that we are sitting in the driving seat of them, and we learn to use them and express them in constructive and creative forms that are inspired by flourishing nature and generous life of the cosmos and loved by the Creator. That's generosity. You know, when I'm observing flowers outside, I see bees can come there and collect the nutritions, right? And when they've gave everything to the bees, they will still find a force, an energy to spread their seeds. And then with the help of the wind, these seeds will spread through the fields. So the next year we can find more flowers, right? Isn't that generous giving? And generous connection. I'm open. Anyone who feel a need can take here from me. Once we become so generous with whatever we are creating, people will really stop lacking things because they will always find something healing in what you're creating. And I think that is a great demonstration of love for all. Love don't have these conditions like, I only love you when you are like this. You see, in life we have positive and negative because the Creator or the Source loves so deeply that it has no conditions. You can actually freely choose how you will live your life. That's love. So you may say, why there's so much pain on the world if the source is all love? Well, because it's so unconditional that it allows us to experience our lives freely the way we are choosing. So we need to choose more wisely in order to experience this new earth, right? We have to choose more wisely. And the thing is that we flourish by practicing flourishing acts. Fair and honest, by doing things that are fair and honest. That's how we become the new earth. We experience the new earth by practicing embodying the energy of the new earth, and that is the energy of love, the energy of generosity, the energy of connectedness, of help, of peace. Isn't that so? The energy of creativity, as the source is infinitely creative. More we are plugged to it, more we feel creative. So that's life, my friends. Isn't that so? So to anyone who resonates with that, once again, hit the like button because it helps to bring this message to more people. Thank you so much for that. And I hope you've enjoyed in today's painting. To anyone who would love to support my art, go and check out our Etsy store, I Draw My Passion. The link is in the description of this video. Thank you so much for your support. Until next time, one love.